But it wasn't. Continue.
Well, you know, shortly after everybody was required to sign, I guess he audited, work activities. I don't know, I wasn't behind the scenes to know what he did, but I guess it was probably a month after everybody was required to sign these sheets. I'm just, showing up on Sunday and parking cars.
Right.
One particular Sunday, I'm way in the back, and it's dusty, and we're in a gravel parking lot, and I'm parking cars, and two of his ushers, all dressed in black. They were, that was their dress code at the time. He's since done away with them because they were intimidating people, but two of his ushers came out to me with a sealed envelope with my name on it and instructed me to open the envelope in their presence and read it, which I did, and my first thought was maybe they bringing us a gift certificate or something, for
Okay.
2 years of service.
So you're one of those guys
that. First thought.
Yeah, you're one of those guys. The glass is always half full, right?
Yeah. But I was quickly disappointed in what I read. I mean, it basically, and I don't have the letter in front of me, of course, but basically it said, it was a typed out letter, a form letter that said, due to the fact that you refused to sign the church covenant, that you would be asked to step down from, the ministry work that you had volunteered for. And it was personally signed by him, so they, and I looked at him and I said, is this a joke? And they said, no, this is the real deal. He said, we were instructed to escort you off of the parking lot. So,
wow.
They walked me, I walked into the church and, joined the congregation in the church, and, and it kind of festered in me for a few days, and I discussed it with my wife, and she was she very, very withdrawn, didn't want to talk about it too much, but just kept telling me, you should have just signed the sheet, and I'm trying to explain to her that I don't, the principles behind why I don't. And so I told her to set up a meeting with the pastor. So, she's on staff there, so she came home and said, the pastor said he'll meet with you tomorrow or whatever day it was. So I went in there and, he tried to explain to me the purpose of the covenant sheets, that it wasn't necessarily for people like me, because he knew I was devoted to the job I had been doing, but if I didn't follow his authority, other people would pick up on that and he would lose control. So, I needed to follow his authority, and I just told him straight up, I'm not, I won't call cars in because I'm not signing the sheet. And the discussion got a little bit heated there. He threw some, biblical scriptures at me about, being rebellious toward a pastor, and and I told him, I respected his position, but I was standing my ground, and that was it. And I left out, and probably for the next two and a half years, I didn't volunteer for anything. I went to church on Wednesday nights and on Sundays as a spectator. They were crying for help because we were building a new church, and I wouldn't volunteer because I just knew what it was about.
Right. And the big problem that we have today, huge, Christians have to get back to learning, studying for themselves, and here it is, thinking for themselves, knowing their own, owning their own knowledge of the Bible. Because if you ask most Christians, where does the elder or the pastor's authority begin and end? most of us wouldn't be able to make a biblical argument for that. Okay?
Correct.
And you have, and we went over this in the conference, for really since 1950, there's been a huge devaluing of teaching Christians doctrine and theology within the church. So when a Christian gets in your situation and the pastor starts throwing Bible verses around, we're pretty much helpless.
Exactly.
Because they have the doctrine and the theology, and we don't. Not only that, when we listen to sermons, we really don't know what's on the label. We don't really know what we're being fed. Okay, we
Right.
see the results of what we're being fed. But we don't see it coming because we don't know our own Bibles. And reading through your testimony, whatever that congregation has been fed for the past several years, it translated, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, Raymond, it translates, and there's a second thing I want to discuss that it translates into. But in your situation, and again, this is like a broken record, we see this, this ministry sees these exact same testimonies, almost word for word, all the time from all different places in the country. But it's obvious from the testimony that your wife felt that pastor had certainly more authority in her life than you did. In essence, what am I, as a person standing on the outside looking in, to concur or to conclude other than the fact that your wife believes that this man owns her?
Yes, I'd have to agree. The whole church, work, marriage relationship was strained, throughout the 6 years of our marriage, because of her devotion to the church. And, it's hard to argue with a spouse that wants to spend all their time at the church, but it's almost as addictive and dangerous as a husband spending all his time at a bar, because
wow, that's a profound point.
Well, I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm not trying to compare the two, but there has to be a balance in our relationship that we never reached that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious now in that when our relationship was put to the test, who she sided with. So, it was pretty obvious.
The constant complaint that we hear is from families standing on the outside. And Philip, 4 minutes to reload. Okay. The constant complaint that we hear is, Paul, that church has so much going on all the time that even if we wanted to talk to our son, daughter, son-in-law, daughter-in-law about this situation we're concerned with, we don't have time. They're constantly, that church constantly has something going on. Okay? And that's also one of the major complaints that people have who have family members that are in a cult. But here's the thing that I also want to discuss with you here in a little bit, is the fact, and again, church historian John Emmel, who's the third wheel of our organization's trike. He's not an official member of us, but Tank is a trike, and he's one of the three wheels. And you know what would happen if you lost one of the three wheels on a trike?
Right.
Things
Right.
don't go well. But he points out that the tyranny and the behavior of the tyranny is consistent over denominational lines, over cult lines. It transcends all those labels. Okay? And people have commented on my blog that Paul, and I've heard this so many times, Paul, it's like they're playing from the exact same playbook. Now, John Emmel would say, well, they are. And he's got his ideas, what the playbook is, and I think he makes his case very well. We are, I don't know where you are right now. I'm having a great time here.
Okay.
Philip's going to have to take a break here in a little bit. He'll tell us when and reload the camera.
Okay.
What I also wanted to talk about is, and I want to slip this in, we got to talk about this before I get off the phone with you. We must talk about this whole... When I talked to you earlier today, you told me that you are resolute in your spirit, that you can't go away, that this church must be held accountable. Okay?
Correct. That's how I feel.
And we need more saints that feel that way. Okay? And you have shared with me that you fully intend to be a help and a service to discernment ministries and ministries that are ministering to people who are victims of this abuse. And I just want you to know that's a huge encouragement to me. And I want to dig into that a little bit more from both of our perspectives. And so we can't forget to do that. But
Okay.
next, what I would like to talk about is, again, I'm interpreting through, what I've seen so much of, but this has definitely happened in a lot of other cases. It looks like it's